It's the Garage Door presenting
Digging
the
deep.
Beatles Power Hour. Tonight's episode is on John Lennon, our favorite top 5 LPs. With us on the show tonight, we have Terry Sowder. Hey, Terry.
Hello, everybody.
Bunny Carlos. Hey, Bunny.
Hello.
Co-host Craig. Hey, Craig.
Hey, how's it going?
And Robert Rodriguez. Hey, Robert.
How you doing, guys?
So our discussion tonight is
Robert.
going to be a lot of fun, kind of rambling. Nothing that doesn't have the most critically favorite. We're just going to jump in and talk about our 5 favorite Lennon LPs, and if any of us had the opportunities to meet or talk to him, may need to talk about that a little bit. But I will go ahead and get the ball rolling with an obscure choice. On my top 5, Sometime in New York City. Much maligned, much hated. It's an album I bought in real time. I even like the Yoko songs on it. And I think in this particular case, we need to say the name of some of the songs we like, even though it's not politically correct. Woman is the nigger of the world. I think John had a lot of, that's a brave move on his part. He certainly wasn't prejudiced in any way. That was the single off the album. It is a topical album, and I think that's where it gets at knocks because it does date it some. But if you just listen to the songs, I think the songs stand up pretty well. John St. Clair, Sunday Bloody Sunday, New York City is just a great rock and roll song on that for me. It's a 2 LP set, as many of you know. The second LP is a jam with, I think Zappa, jam recorded with Zappa and some stuff at the Lyceum Theater, if I'm not mistaken.
Fillmore
Any
East for
comments?
Zappa.
Excuse me?
Fillmore East for Zappa. That was 71. And the Lyceum was the Plastic Ono supergroup in 69.
Okay. Anybody else get this album in real time?
It's funny, I got it.
What was your first thoughts, Bunny, when you first played it? Were you disappointed?
It was a little too political for me. I like the band. I like the record. I like the live stuff on it also. But I thought the material was not as A material. Most of it.
Lyrically, I would agree with you. Lyrically, I would agree with you. Now, musically, as you touched on before, I think that the band's pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, that's Keltner. Robert, you may know better. Who all's playing on that record? I can't.
Well, Elephant's Memory.
Yeah, Elephant's Memory. Yeah.
Stan Bronstein, Ippolito, those guys, Wayne Cabral. So that was their first real workout with John. They went on to do the one-to-one show with him, of course, and then they backed up Yoko on a couple albums. And I think that was where they really hit their stride as a band. Was approximately Infinite Universe, which came out at the beginning of '73. But John cut him loose after that, and because he was having his immigration troubles, and put together a studio band when he got around to doing Mind Games in the summer of '73.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, him and Yoko both produced the Elephant's Memory album on that. It's not a bad album at all if you can search it out, I think.
Mm-hmm. Although I am partial to Mongoose.
Yeah. Yes.
Come back.
Mongoose, the single, I think it was in '69 or '70. It was not part of the Apple stuff, but it's a pretty cool tune.
But it was before he started hanging out with John and Yoko, Elephant's Memory, before they started hanging out with John and Yoko.
Right.
Yeah.
And David Peel.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. There's my pick. I don't think I stole anybody's there. That's my first one of my top faves. Bunny, let's go ahead and jump in with you. One of your top Lennon faves.
Well, there's a Starbucks album that came out. It might be called Remember. I'm not sure, but the tune I did with Lennon, it's got the long version on it with the extra bridge and stuff like that they cut off the John Lennon box. So, of course, I went looking for it today in my stash and can't find it, but I think it's called Remember.
I have it right here, Bunny. That was in one of my picks as well. It's got the Nelson Carlos or Carlos Nelson version of "I'm Losing You" on it. Just a great compilation. That's as far as compilations go. That was in my picks as well. Starbucks put this out, I'm thinking, 2004, 2005? I can't remember for certain.
I think it's 6.
Okay.
I think I looked on Amazon. The 2006 there.
And it's a CD only version. I happen to have an extra one of these, and at the end of the show, we'll give some contact information, and whoever calls in or emails us, I'll send it to you free. So we've got an extra one of these. It is out of print
Is it
now.
a double?
No, it's a
Is that
single.
a double or a single?
Single CD.
Okay, save it for me.
All right, you can have that one. I've got a couple extras. But the track listing real fast. Number 9, Dream, Instant Karma, Working Class Hero, Hold On, Watching the Wheels, Remember, God, Mother, Sean's Little Help, Imagine, Stealing Glass, I'm Losing You, which is the what I call the Cheap Trick version, Going Down on Love, Nobody Told Me, which I play a lot, especially now, Isolation, Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out, Jealous Guy, and Just Like Starting Over. So it's a
terrific lineup.
Yeah. And the mastering, I don't know who did the mastering on it, but it's not compressed. It's got a really good sound to it. So yeah, good pick, Bunny. If we could, I know I hate to bug you about this, but real fast, what tracks did you guys play on, Bunny?
Well, we went in. You want the whole story? It takes about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, you can take an hour as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Okay, we got a call in June of 1980. We were at the airport, and Jack, I get to call Jack Douglas. I call him, and we want you to do this session with John Lennon. He's doing a comeback record. He's coming out of retirement. Don't tell anybody. Okay, so I went and told everybody, And about a month later, then bring Rick with to play guitar. So then about 3-4 weeks after that, Tom leaves. Tom decides he can't tour. So we do 5 shows in a row in Canada. We're in the middle of a tour with Pete Comita on bass, and he's never played bass before. We do 5 in a row in Canada, like these arenas. And the day off, we go to New York, me and Rick, and go to the power station or whatever, the Hit Factory, wherever it was at there. It was up a flight of stairs. And we go walking up, and Tony Levin's walking up, and he's in front of me, and I ask him, I go, were you in the band Bomp, the band of motherfuckers? Because they did that Sir Lou Grade TV thing where they all had bald wigs on.
Yes.
And he turns around and, no, I wasn't, damn it all, blah, 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 blah. I'm Tony Levin. And I go, oh, Tony, and we started talking, and then, we talked about Peter Gabriel, and I asked him about the stick, and then he was my best friend. But, so we go walking in the studio, and there's John and Yoko and Jack Douglas standing there, and so Jack introduces us. He goes, John, this is Rick and Bunny from Cheap Trick, and this is Rick and Bunny, and John Lennon goes, oh, you're the guys from Cheap Trick. He goes, they told me your name, but they didn't tell me what band you're in, so I didn't know who you were. So that was kind of neat. And then he played us this version of Losing You on cassette, an acoustic guitar that he'd done in the British West Indies or Bahamas or something.
Yeah.
And goes, you guys got any ideas for this? So me and Rick went in the studio for about 15 minutes, and we listened to it a couple times, and they gave us some sheet music for it. And we went in the studio and kind of like, let's try it like, give it the Cold Turkey feel or the Plastic Ono Band feel kind of. So we dicked around with it a little bit, and then, yeah, come on in. And Tony and John came in, and George Small, and we ran it down a few times, and John sang live. He had that weird that goofy shaped guitar with him, and he had another guitar with him. And so we cut a track live in the studio, and then Rick goes, let me double the guitar on it. He doubled all his licks and put some harmonies on and stuff. And while he was doing that, me and John were sitting in the booth, and John whips his guitar out, and he goes, this is my Day Tripper guitar. And I'm sitting there like, duh. And he goes, yeah, I got to refinish, and I go, oh, Day Tripper. I says, that's number 10 in Phoenix this week. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, we got an EP out, and it's a single, and it's number 10 in Phoenix this week. And he's like, okay. And he's like, hey, you want to smoke a joint? And I was like, yeah, no kidding. I said, yeah, I've been in Canada for a week, and I didn't have any pot up there. I said, we couldn't find any weed. So yeah, we smoked a joint, and he's like, oh, I love this guy on guitar. This is just great. Rick's in there cutting the second lead track, and he goes, yeah, we did Cold Turkey and Eric Clapton was on lead and he'd only play one lick. And I was like, come on, play more stuff. And he'd only play this one lick. And I love this guy. And so we were talking about stuff like that. And he was like, he goes, oh, do you want to, after we get done with the Yoko's tune, he goes, you want to go out to dinner and we'll come back to the studio later. And I said, no, I got to go back home. I said, I got to do my laundry. I'm going to Japan tomorrow, which was not the smartest move there, but,
Yeah.
and he laughed. John laughed and he looks over at Yoko and he goes, yeah, I know. I married one of the emperor's daughters, and he looks over at Yoko. I'm kind of like, okay, what do you say, and John Lennon's making a joke about his old lady, and you're sitting there getting high with him. So then we went in the studio with Yoko, and John stayed in the booth. The rest of the band went in, and we were running down I'm Moving On, because they were going to crossfade one into the other. And Tony Levin had this really goofy bass riff, and he's like, I do this riff every day at soundcheck, and I'm always trying to get into a song. And so we're messing around with that, and he's like, we could do this for the first verse, and then the band come in at the chorus, and we're messing around with it. And John gets on the talkback and goes, Mother dear, he goes, you should do Tony's intro for the first verse, and then the boys will come in. And then she turns to John and goes, fuck you very much, John. And we all just started laughing and shit, because she nailed him right there on the spot. But so he just kind of sat back, and we did a few takes of Moving On and got a version. And Rick basically wrote all the riffs in that song, and like Losing You, he wrote the guitar up that kind of stuff. He wrote all that. So that's how I went with Yoko. And then I went to the airport and went home. I got him to sign my sheet music, and then I went to the airport and went home. They went out to dinner, and then of course they came back and recorded Beautiful Boy that night. So I missed being like on shaker or bongo drum or something. And I've asked Rick. I said, well, how did it go that night? What happened? And he's like, I don't remember. I think they might have gone out to dinner and got plastered or something. I'm not sure. But so that's my John Lennon story.
So Bunny, did it take you a bit to? I mean, at first were you going like? Did he do things to make you feel at ease, or were you just, I know you're a professional, so you're used to being in situations like that, but I know I would have just been like at first, or were you just kind of relaxed and, hey, kick back?
We were kind of burnt out from being on the road, for the last 3 years with no vacation, and we'd done the album with George Martin that spring, and stuff like that, and our record was top 5 and the single was top 5, or the second single was shooting up the charts or something. So it was kind of like, okay, John's calling us. How cool is this, And of course, I'm in there cutting the track thinking, I'm sitting here with John Lennon cutting a track, and it's just like, this is really something different, stuff like that. But, that's why they wanted us in there, because they wanted us to do what we do, for these two tunes. So it kind of made sense that we were there. Yeah. Plus, we had a bigger record than he did at the time, so right. There you go. But and when we were in there, I remember Rick went, John, we wanted you to produce our first record, and Jack told us you were too busy and you were retired or something. And Lennon turns to Jack and he's like, you never told me that. I would have done that. And we were like, oh boy, So that was something different,
Oh yeah, of course. Robert, any follow-up questions for Bunny on that session?
Oh, tons, but maybe we can do that on a separate show sometime.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, now, Bunny, I hate to get off topic, but one more thing. How was Jack? I mean, Jack had produced. What had he produced for you by this time?
He'd done Budokan, and he did the first record, and he did that Found All the Parts EP, which was brand new product at the time. And he'd worked on the Imagine album. He did some stuff for the Invisible Strings and some of the New York stuff. He engineered on it and stuff. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, good choice. Back. Thank you for that information. But back to the Starbucks compilation. It's on Hear Music. It is out of print, but you can find it. It's fairly common. I mean, I haven't looked for it for a long time, but again, Bunny's got a copy of that coming. I have another extra one that's still sealed. So at the end of the show, at the end of the episode, please email or let us know on Facebook, The Garage Door, and send us a message, and I will send that out to the first responder. First comes back. All right, Robert, you want to jump in and give us one of your top 5 Lennon LPs?
Okay, so we're doing Gray Market here?
Yeah, anything you want to do, man.
Okay, cool. Well, in terms of personal favorites, and it's something that I think there might be a CD iteration, but I got it in the early 80s as a vinyl thing. And it was a beautiful white covered with a signature on it called John Lennon Limited Edition. Anybody familiar with that? It had a booklet inside it. So it comes out in the early 80s, and it's this beautiful compilation of just all these stray Lennon tracks that hadn't been officially released or put on an LP to that point. So it's got, for instance, the rehearsal version of Whatever Gets You Through the Night, the studio version where it's not full tempo yet, doesn't have Elton yet. It's got Move Over Mazel, the not album B-side.
Love that. Love
It's
that.
got some of the rock and roll outtakes that were on Roots but didn't make it to the official Apple release, Angel Baby and Be My Baby. It's got the long fade-out version of I Found Out, where it starts going into Gone, 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 the Carl Perkins song. The long version of Utopian International Anthem, so that's important. The remix. Do the Oz, What a Shame, Mary Jane. And it's got, if you're familiar with this, going back to Double Fantasy, there was the 12-inch promotional single of Starting Over that had a much longer coda on it than the commercial release and the album release. So here you've got that. So it was just a beautiful set, came with a booklet, and it was just one of the best bootlegs at the time. Top-notch sound and everything. And it's a favorite with me because it just collected so much cool Lennon stuff in one place. Kind of a template for Anthology and Once Upon a Time, which came out much later, of course.
Right. Okay, good choice. All right, Terry, you ready to jump in there? One of your top Lennon faves?
Can you guys hear me okay? I cut out there for a minute.
Yeah.
Don't know what happened. So I'm going to do the follow-up album from yours, Troy, and go with Mind Games. So for me, it was a real-time album. The only album that I can recall that I bought and my mother bought. So we both had a copy of it. So I got a full exposure to it, both from her RCA console stereo in the living room, and I think I had the 8-track tape at the time. So love the album. I mean, it hit me at the right time when I was really getting into music and was into the Beatles, of course, and probably the solo Beatles album that I've listened to the most in terms of repeated listenings, and just love the album. Mind Games, the big hit, great record, great lyrics, music, Tight As.
Love Tight
Ass.
Right.
Nice rockabilly tune, right? Got that 50s feel. Killer Dave Spinoza solo in that. Couple of other favorites on that album is Out the Blue. Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Acoustic intro.
Yeah.
Song that really builds, and builds nicely.
He had a real thing for sort of
it.
gospel stuff. Like he did the Freeze a Bird later on. He had a real feel for that.
Yeah. Good point. Another song I like on that is Intuition. I See My Sin. Another great song, great Spinoza guitar solo at the end of that one. So that's mine. I'm
sorry, I kind of stepped on you when you said Meat City, and I was thinking that's a song that if John ever got to play live, I would have loved to have heard that one.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Good point.
That is such a great rock and roll song that he did, and I love you're probably familiar with this, that the single, where it's got that little backward passage between verses is different from the album one.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
No,
what do they say? What do they say? What does he say there, Robert?
On the single version, the backwards part, it's on the backwards part on the single is check the album, and on the album it's a different punch in, and it's fuck a pig.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but I knew it.
Sorry. Tell me this,
now,
Terry.
that was an album.
Did you hear the 2006 remix?
Yes, I have. Have you heard the remix, Terry, Bunny, Craig? Have you guys heard the
Yeah,
remix?
sure.
I don't think I have.
That's what really brought that album to life for me, I have to say. I liked it okay, but it was not like in my top 3. But then when they remixed it, because Lennon as a producer tended to be very fast and not take the time and have the patience for detail, when they remixed it, it was like a whole other listening experience. And like, Jesus, where's this album been for 40 years?
And that was his first album to produce, right? So
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a learning curve.
Absolutely. And it's just amazing that he at least caught the performances if they didn't end up on the final mix, because he was in a rush to get it out the door. But I'm glad that that was preserved and made available to people to really hear what that album's all about.
Bunny, did you buy that album in real time?
No, I didn't. I was too busy playing in bars.
Yeah, yeah. And that was a real time album for me too. I mean, that was right at the cusp of the Red and the Blue album. But as we've talked about in a previous discussion, I had older brothers and sisters, so they had turned me on to it. And I remember going to the store and it was a big deal getting it, getting Mind Games. But one of my favorite cuts on that is Free to People. I just absolutely love that. When I'm feeling enraged politically for one reason or another, I always put it on. But anyway, and there's some Dutch imports of this that are from the sessions that are really good. Really good. Go into detail about what's going on. So excellent choice, Terry. I would rate that, I would give that a top, that's my top 5. Bunny, your opinions of Mind Games? Bunny, you still there?
Who's?
Yeah, you just your opinion of Mind Games.
Mind Games? You're asking Bunny? Me?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, audio's kind of goofy here. Sorry. I just thought it was okay record. Nothing in it really knocked me out except the single when I originally heard it. And the stuff I got from you, Troy, the sessions, I enjoyed that actually a lot more. Hearing these guys play and mess around in the studio. But at the time when, Elton John was like, we were the anti-Elton John kind of band back then, the hard rock, heavy stuff. And the softer Lennon got, the kind of further we wondered what the heck he was thinking when his production softened up there in the mid-'70s. And then he did rock and roll and kind of saved his soul from going to hell, music hell. But, that was kind of the hard-ass attitude we had in the 70s, It was like
sure.
He wimped out on us,
Well, Lennon, I think, is actually
So
commented
the remix,
on that.
I'm going to have to... I'm looking forward to getting the remix and checking it out and hearing something I didn't hear the first time, because I haven't really heard the finished product probably in 20 or 30 years, 40 years maybe, been a while.
Robert's right. The remix will bring it alive. It really does. It takes out some of the murk, if that makes any sense, and kind of just makes it sound better, I think.
It's got more guts to it for sure. It's funny because I posted on one of my pages about the Woman is the Nigger of the World single, this being the anniversary of its release. And a lot of the critique I was getting from people, content aside, is that they weren't really impressed with the sound of the production of that album, that they thought that he did better in other places. And, that's his last thing with Spector, really, besides rock and roll. And that, I would say, applies to the Lennon production of Mind Games initially till it got remixed, is that there's just a thickness to it, almost a fog to it, that you don't get the clarity or the guts or the detail till the remix came around, at least to my ears.
Agreed.
But the songs are good and the songwriting's good and, better than the production.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Definitely. I'd say that.
All right, Craig, you ready to jump in?
Yeah, you guys have already said it. Rock and roll for me. I know you guys have talked about it, and I like the old school Beatles stuff the best. Always have, always will. And to me, rock and roll is that cavern Beatle kind of sound to it, and I like those covers. I thought he did a good job with most of them, and that to me that's my favorite one of his. So
yeah, I some people malign it, but I particularly like it. I really do. I actually like it when Phil's not involved. The tracks he produced without Phil.
Those are definitely better.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he's in a better place too. Is that we know that the Spector sessions were pretty much a nonstop party, and if I'm certain you've heard some of the outtakes, especially just because.
Yeah.
Yes.
2 basses on that song. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
James
those
Taylor.
characters.
The record is really good, and the Adam 8 version is even better, of course, because it's got an extra minute of You Can't Catch Me. It's got cymbals that got taken out of the final mix and all sorts of songs. There's Jim Keltner's crash cymbals are on there. And the rock and roll album, it's my #1 John Lennon album, too. I'm right there with you, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where Cheap Trick got the idea for Ain't That a Shame, is it not?
That's we stole it right off of there. You know?
The album Bunny's
With a long
referring to. Go ahead, Bunny.
Oh, God, yeah.
Go ahead.
Best part.
No, I was going to say the album you're referring to is an Adam 8 kind of very much a bootleg gray market thing called Roots. The greatest rock and roll songs. If your album says The Great on it, I think it's a boot. But anyway, a lot of good stuff on there, and it's a little rawer than rock and roll, but it's got a lot of good stuff on it. I mean, just great stuff.
It would have been interesting if he'd pursued more of a Plastic Ono band sound doing that. Like, what I point to is in '71 Pre-Imagine, when he does that cover of Well Baby Please Don't Go, and if he'd made the whole album those same songs in more in that vein than the Spectre Wall of Sound stuff, and I understand he was in a different place, you know, he could have done a Plastic Ono band sounding rock and roll album, and that would have been just untouchable, you know?
Yeah.
Because I heard rock and roll after I owned Star Club back in the '70s. And so I'm thinking, oh, great, Sweet Little 16 kicks ass at the Star Club. Can't wait to hear it here. And I was like, huh? You know, it's slow down. It just got all this production on top of it. It's like, man, John, what happened? It's like, I want to hear that Star Club sound.
Yep.
And that ties in, that kind of ties in a little bit, Bunny, what you were saying, that John got a little softer, kind of lost his way to a certain degree. I mean, his rock and roll way.
Well, in his whole defense, you know, the whole world did, it seems, you know, in England, you know, every group wanted to be the band after about December of 1968, you know, everybody wanted to, like, go acoustic and all this stuff, you know, and everybody softened up. Everything softened up suddenly.
Yeah, back to the country, you know, yes, yeah. All right, I'm ready for my next pick, and it happens to be Once Upon a Time. It's a 2 LP compilation. Basically, it's a greatest hits off the anthology. Not greatest hits.
Distillation.
It also has the Cheap Trick version of I'm Losing You. Not the long version, though. It's got a shortened version on it.
You have the promo, don't you?
Yeah.
You have the promo CD?
Yes, you got the promo CD. Yeah, and this is the LP. Yep.
Yeah, because the promo CD had the longer
a-
version, I believe.
Once Upon a Time, we're talking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right here. Yeah. That's the short version.
What were you saying, Robert?
I just thought that what was on, I have a promo from Anthology. Maybe it's not the promo of Once Upon a Time, but something where it was a longer Cheap Trick version of I'm Losing You than the commercial release.
Yeah, that's that Starbucks record.
Oh, okay.
It's the only one I know of.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Uh-huh.
With the long version. Now, it does have the Cheap Trick version, but it's an edited version on one of the promos. And I think Once Upon a Time, this is the shortened version. This is the Cheap Trick version, but it's the shortened version, too.
I'll have to check, because I remember back in the day having to trade somebody to get it.
But I like it because it's all alternate take stuff. It doesn't have some of the overproduction and some of the production issues that we've talked about with some of the other Lennon released LPs. And what I was going to go back, though, you know, as far as important and great LPs, Plastic Ono Band, I don't want to step on anybody's toes and jump in here. It is a great album, but it's not an album I can listen to every day. It's just a heavy album for me. I mean, it's a very heavy album. You know, there is a lot of pain in there, and there's a lot of honesty and a lot of truth, but there's also some hard-ass rock and roll in it, too. And I think Ringo's drumming on that is just phenomenal. Very solid. Bunny gave me some set of outtakes from that that are just fantastic. I hadn't heard those before. Bunny, do you still have those?
Yeah, they're sitting around here somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. They do a lot of rock and roll covers, and their sessions aren't as heavy as what you would think. I don't know if you guys have ever heard any of those. Terry, Robert, Craig, if you've heard any of those outtakes.
Funny, don't be cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Fun stuff. I just interviewed Chip Mattinger about that stuff.
Chip Madinger, if you don't know,
Cool.
has written a couple books, Eight Arms to Hold You, just
Lennonology.
Lennonology, which is just a great book, Day by Day of John, just a very, very well Lennon scholar, and goes into depth of detail and just does a good job, very knowledgeable and a fan. You know, the bottom line, we're all fans, but the bottom line is that. So. All right, Robert, your next pick.
All right. At the risk of throwing something soft on the table, I'm going to make my case here for Walls and Bridges. That, to me, is like Lennon's Sinatra in the wee hours of the night, one of those thematic Capitol 50s albums, because he's going through something here. I think last week we talked when I was making the case for Dark Horse being sort of a parallel release where they're both going through something and sustain it over the course of the album start to finish. The thing about Walls and Bridges that I like is that, as you were saying, Plastic Ono Band, it's a one-off, some very painful, to-the-bone, soul-exposing compositions there, but it's not for pleasant listening.
Yeah.
And I think he'd hit his stride as a producer by the time he got around to doing Walls and Bridges, because he had Mind Games under his belt, but also Pussycats with Harry Nilsson. And right on the eve of, or after Walls and Bridges, he finished up Rock and Roll. So he was really, yes, doing well, getting his hands on in the studio board, learning how to do all that stuff, and as an arranger and all that stuff. I think that he struck the balance at Walls and Bridges between personal songs that meant something to him, Plastic Ono Band-esque, like Scared, Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out, but also making it something that if you're not even attuned to the lyrics, you're just listening to the overall sound, it's a beautiful record. You know, for me, he never did better than Number 9 Dream as a post-Beatles single.
Yeah.
I agree.
But it still has
To
a
me,
grit
it's
there, and he's still singing about something that means something to him. So it's got all that. You got the Swipe at Klein, you got the Missing Yoko song, Bless You, Going Down on Love, which is an amazingly modern-sounding track from him.
It does sound modern, and it's got his sense of humor. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about what the song's about, it's going down on love.
Right.
Heck of a way to kick off an album, right?
Yeah.
First things first. Start with the foreplay.
Right.
Yeah.
What You Got's on there. I mean, What You Got, I quote all the time.
What if Nobody Loves You on that one?
Yep.
Nobody Loves You on that. That's a good song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Beef Jerky. I mean, you got a song named Beef Jerky.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the response song to Paul. Let Me Roll It.
Yeah.
It's got the answering lick in there. So when you listen to it in that context, it's like, I really like the place Lennon was in '74.
Me too.
You know, don't buy the myth about the lost weekend crap.
Yes, and that's bullshit. Yes, I agree. That is bullshit. You know, to me, you know, first of all, he was young. I mean, you're in your 30s, you're going to do stupid stuff, but it wasn't a complete waste. He was very productive. And
Extremely.
You know, I don't buy that whole, I lost, Yoko, I was lost. I'm
like
not
the Troubadour typified the entire period. It didn't. That was one night.
Yeah. Yes, exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Iovine engineered that album, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And he made a comment of how prepared John was when he came in, you know, to start the album. So, I mean, he had it going on.
Yeah, he was a pro. He was taking it very, very seriously, especially after the Nilsson sessions. And it really shows, you know, top-notch band. It's amazing that he sort of intuited that because he'd fallen from favor because Mind Games didn't do that great, and it didn't do, you know, it did even worse than Sometime in New York City. But he brings in the most popular rock star on the planet to sing a duet with him on the lead-off single. It's like, of course it's going to go to #1, but it's actually a worthy performance as well.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer, Robert, I prefer the outtake of Whatever Gets You Through the Night. I think, Bunny, I may have shared this with you too. I've got the sessions from this as well. And it sounds a lot better. I mean, I like the sessions. Whatever Gets You Through the Night, to me, is not exemplify really John. It's just John, but I do like the sentiment behind it.
Yeah, it's a nice radio hit. That's what he needed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't going to give us instant karma at that point, but it'll do.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. Good point. Another album I bought in real time.
That was my first Beatles solo album in real time.
Okay.
Followed by Venus and Mars.
Bunny, were you buying this at this time? Was that another one where you just kind of overlooked it?
Well, we just heard the tunes on the radio. We heard the album a couple times, you know, but it really wasn't at that time. You know, he was in a good place. I mean, he was past the Nixon FBI crap, and he was back in the biz. He was showing up at Bowie sessions, you know, doing that weird version of Across the Universe, you know, and stuff, and Fame and stuff. But you know, he was playing the game and being very successful at it, you know. But just as he's about ready to like take over the world, then he goes and retires. So yeah, Walls and Bridges kind of came, and then it just kind of fell off a cliff. His whole, you know, it just so. You know, I never had any time later. Never sat around later and really listened to the record, except for, you know, just what I've heard over the years. You know.
Yeah, and you know, well, the story is, you know, he was still with May, and then Yoko. He was going to the Dakota. The story is to Yoko had arranged a hypnotist to help him quit smoking. So you know, oh well.
We know how the smoking part turned out.
yeah.
That Joe Seaman got him some good weed, really. Yeah. That's where he said he got it, you know.
Yeah. Hey, Bunny, as an off topic, did you ever work with Jimmy Iovine? Did you ever do any sessions with him or work with him?
You know, Robin did a solo album with him, you know, but he gave Robin $1 million, you know, for that solo album, and back in the late '80s when he was running Interscope. Now he worked with Petty. He worked for the competition, you know. He was at MCA or Atlantic or, you know, with Geffen or somebody. So CBS, you know, he was persona non grata, Verbraten, and all that other stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay, Terry, your next pick.
Okay, well, I will take care of the elephant in the room, or one of the elephants maybe, and go with Imagine.
Yeah, given.
Yeah.
Imagine
so maybe
like all things must pass. It's, you know, that's a given. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I think all the songs are well known, but some are less well known than others. Just maybe a couple of, you know, get past the song Imagine. Crippled Inside. Love the kind of the dance hall arrangement of that, and George's dobro, of course, and really throughout the album, George's contribution is one of the things that makes the album so good. And the other thing I was going to mention, it's just because I watched it a few days ago, was the video of the Oh My Love, a collaboration with George, and how touching that is, and you know, showing it even at that time how natural it was for those two to work together and be in a very intimate, you know, studio situation. So love that song, and that's part of the reason I really, you know, enjoy it.
It's intuitive, Terry. Did you see how just the interplay? George just suggests the little things. Craig, have you, and Robert, you probably have. Craig, Bunny, have you guys seen that? It's in Above Us Only Sky, which is on Netflix. Have you seen that bit?
Oh yeah. And just how naturally those guys collaborated after years and years of being with each other since teenage years. It's just amazing, though, that having had these successes, and I know that George felt burned by John over the whole Bangladesh thing, which followed on the heels of that, that you'd walk away from something that was so fulfilling. You know, you could do your solo stuff, but it's like when you've got that kind of magic of somebody that's on your level and can intuit and take you where you want to go, it's like, why would you give that up?
Yeah. That's a whole topic on its own,
right.
To examine that. You know, that certainly is. Bunny, did you guys, Craig, Terry, Robert, did you guys get the Imagine set, the box set that came out?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
I got the Imagine box. I think it's probably better than the original album. I mean, I think every CD in that thing is just great. It was such a pleasure to listen to it, and it made me really appreciate the album more than I probably did when it came out. It was just like just a joy to listen to those sessions.
I think it really set the gold standard for reissues.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, you know, Cheap Trick. We used to do It So Hard in the bars, and we did.
Oh, cool.
We used to do old Yoko in the dressing room and stuff like that. We retitled it Ozino, our last singer. You know,
Our love will turn you on.
And we used to love to sit around and have a couple drinks and a joint and listen to that stuff. And we did the Mike Douglas version of "It's So Hard," not the album version. So
Yeah,
we
right,
put a little more
right.
meat, a little more meat into it.
Sure.
Do you have any recordings of that, Bunny?
Yeah, on the Bunny's Basement bootleg. There's, I think, "It's So Hard's" on there. We did it at one of our fan fests in the late '90s. We
Nice.
dragged it out and played it one night.
Love to hear that. Hint, hint. Love to hear that. Hint, hint.
I'll mail it to you.
All right. All right. Very cool. Very cool. All right. I'll go on with my next pick. And it is Live Peace in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
That album, it's just, to me, it exemplifies what rock and roll is all about. It flying on the seat of our pants. I got this band together. We're just going to rock hard. We're going to rock and roll hard. The copy I'm happening to show up is you notice it has the John and Yoko promo sticker on it, still sealed, has the calendar in it. They found a bunch of these in a warehouse back in the 80s, but still, it's a still sealed. I love that album. It's got Alan White playing drums, Clapton, Klaus Vormann. Yoko's going to do her thing all over you on that album. But if you're not, get your matches ready. Kim Fowley.
Yep.
Kim Fowley fame, if you're not familiar with that. But to me, the album just rocks. It's a good album. I put it on. I listened to it. You can tell these guys were professionals. I mean, they with no rehearsals, they were able to just really rock it.
Oh yeah.
That version of Cold Turkey is just smoking, I think. And Dizzy Miss Lizzy. I mean, Dizzy Miss Lizzy was just like, whoa.
Money is nice and heavy.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know who produced this. I'm not. It's produced by John and Yoko, but I think probably an engineer. I don't know if it was who did it, but Robert, you may have a little more info on the production of that. I don't know.
I believe it was somebody local. I couldn't give you a name off the top of my head. I don't think it was the guy that they used in Montreal for "Give Peace a Chance" because this was Toronto. But they would have used whoever was there because this was so by the seat of its pants. They didn't go there thinking, okay, we're going to make a live album out of this. It's like, oh, we can record the set, cool, and that's how it was because other people were filming and recording their sets that weekend as well.
Yeah, it got released because it got bootlegged.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get back to Toronto.
Yeah.
When you get to side 2 of that thing, I got to tell you, we were in the studio with Yoko doing her song "Moving On," and we're doing a final take, and we get to the end, and she goes into one of her gurgle thingamabobs that go on for about 20 seconds, and everybody in the band kind of looked at each other and smiled, and it was kind of like, we have finally arrived. Here we go. It was so cool. It was really neat. So that was a moment. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and if there's video footage of that and on the show, I think that's John and his. I like John's look at that time. He's the full head of the Jesus John look. I mean, he's in the white suit, full head of hair, full beard, wild John. I like that John look. But to me, the album is just, it's heavy, but it exemplifies to me what I love about rock and roll. We're just going to go for it. What, Robert?
Smack.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. But,
There's that.
but anyway, that's in my wheelhouse. I love that album. All right, jumping in here, Craig, your next pick.
You've gotten all mine. That was my last one right there.
Okay, Bunny, your next pick.
Well, I only got one left you haven't hit, and that's the Live in New York album with Elephant's Memory Band, because he never did many band records, he never did many live shows, and there's one, and it's a long one, so he does some cool tunes. Finally, that it's like Live in Toronto. I wish that was a 90-minute set, but it isn't.
Yeah.
So, if I want to hear some live Lennon, what do you got? What do you got here? It's the Elephant's Memory one is the one.
Yeah, I like the version of. There's a lot on there. I like the version of "Come Together" on that real well.
Yeah. Didn't hurt having Keltner sitting up there, with that other
Keltner's
guy.
just a monster. We'll have to do a
saved
drumming show, but yes, Keltner is just amazing. And then the Elephant's Memory, maligned to a certain degree, but I like him on that album. I would like to have been there to have heard it. Robert,
if those guys were no good, they wouldn't have been there. Lennon wouldn't have had them there. You know, they
Right.
had to be good enough, or he wouldn't have worked with them. You know, so yeah,
Good
they were
choice.
good enough.
What else is on there? Let's see. He does
New York
quite a-
City.
Yeah.
He does Imagine. You know, he does the hits. You know,
Instant Karma. Mother.
Yeah. So we're searching out. Good choice. I think that is something that deserves to be released. I think again, I'd like to see the whole concert. I think that'd be great to see the whole concert out there. I know the footage is there. Robert, any more information? You have any inside information on that at all?
Well, you know, I know that several years ago this was announced, and I saw the quotes that Jack Douglas was working on a repackage of that, a reissue, remix, all that stuff, because when they put out the original album in the 80s, you know, they had to choose what was, I guess, between the afternoon and the evening shows, the one that everybody felt performance-wise was not as good as the other, but the good one had noise issues, and they didn't feel they could use it. And by the time they did Anthology, they'd fixed those noise issues. And that's why you got that wonderful version of Come Together Live that wasn't part of the New York City package. And so Jack Douglas now revisiting this stuff, they were supposed to do some kind of remix and a reissue. You know, 2012 is come and gone. That would have been the 40th anniversary. So maybe they're waiting for 2 more years to make it 50, but they need to do that. And the other thing I was going to add is that they professionally recorded the rehearsals, and that's been bootlegged for years. And what would be nice is, you know, some of that stuff, because he's doing oldies that he didn't do in the actual show. He did Hound Dog in the show, but Roll Over Beethoven, they rehearsed. He didn't do that. And so it would be nice to get that stuff out there.
cool.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have a copy of that, Robert?
Oh, I've got a copy of it. Yeah.
Hey,
I
by the
gave
way-
you Wonderwall Mono and download.
Yes,
Oh,
I
Robert,
love
old
it.
buddy.
Will do, guys. I was going to say, just as something else to throw out there, you were talking, Bunny, about a live Lennon experience. There was a great Dutch import from the 70s called Telecasts. Anybody remember that one? It collated all the TV performances. So you've got several versions of Imagine from like the Jerry Lewis Telethon, Mike Douglas show. You've got Instant Karma from Top of the Pops, which got the one with the great live vocal on it, that sort of thing. And it's actually a pretty satisfying listen when you put all that stuff together. And in the digital age, because the vinyl was, you know, sourced from tape, and it sounds like crap in a lot of places, but they've upgraded it in the digital age, and it actually sounds a lot better than what we first heard in the 70s. So that's a nice little snapshot collection.
Someone ought to get Mrs. Lennon to open up the vault here. You know, it's not like her customers are getting any younger. You know.
You know what? They
Well,
got a
that's
tradition
it.
of leaving money on the table. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, yes, 100%. It's like, what is going on? Please. I mean, well, it's like the Mike Douglas show. I can remember my older brothers. It smelled funny in the room, but they were watching the Mike Douglas show when it was airing, when John was hosting. You know, I don't know if you guys remember that, and that's out on
Yeah.
VHS.
Well, the
Yeah.
golden moment is when he does the duet with Chuck Berry and Yoko chimes in.
Oh yeah.
Somebody pulls the plug on the mic halfway through that. Thank God.
Yeah.
Chuck's reaction, man.
But anyway, that stuff, money sitting on the table, that's out there. That
Yep.
concert needs to be released. The video that needs to be released. The Mike Douglas it's on VHS. It was commercially released, but no DVD. Yeah, there's just stuff there. And if they give us any example of from the Imagine box set from last year, that is the template. That's the gold standard, as you said, Robert. And they need to, Bunny. That's what they need to continue to do. I mean, just great stuff.
Yeah.
All right,
that'd be
Terry.
amazing.
Terry, got another pick?
You guys took all of mine. Thank you very much. I don't have anything else.
I think we've
Well, I
covered
have-
every studio album, haven't we? Did
Just
somebody say
about.
Plastic Ono Band?
Well, I have an.
Oh, you know, there's one John Lennon album no one ever talks about. It's actually by the Beatles, and it's called Hard Day's Night, where he wrote most of the songs on the record, and the thing just rocks its balls off. And it's great,
Yeah.
and there's not too much schmaltz on it. You know, someone ought
You
to
know-
do a John Lennon Beatles comp. You know,
Their last Amphetamine
Oh,
album.
Yes, yes, the Amphetamine album. But I do think we have another topic for another show there. John stuff and the Beatles. I agree with you about A Hard Day's Night. John was firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And you know, there's arguments that really that, you know, it was John's band. I mean, to begin with, it was John's band. I think John saw himself as the leader all the way through.
Well, he was, you know. So yeah.
So that's another show entirely there. But
Then there's another one. You know, I'm on CD 20 of the Let It Be, complete Let It Be, and you know, I'm starting from the first day and going to the end, and I'm writing down any cool songs. And someone needs to do a good compilation of that. You know.
Oh yeah.
A good bootleg. You know, it
It's a
takes a
50
long
year.
time to go through. It's 100 and something hours or something. So I'm doing it like a couple CDs a week and making notes when needed. You know.
But
That kind of
Bunny
thing.
and I were talking about this a little bit ago, and it was like, okay, I'm on disc 7. You know, it's like a slog to a certain degree because there's some fluff in there. I actually enjoy hearing the dialogue as much as I do some of the songs.
Oh hell
Well,
yeah.
being in a band, I'm used to sitting around a rehearsal room and working on a tune for 3 days, you know, or something. But it's hard for civilians, you know, to sit through and listen to that stuff. But to a musician, you know, if you're doing something else at the time and you got it blasting or something, it's just great to have on and hear them making wisecracks and doing a verse of this. And poor George, you know, he's whipped out "Speak to Me," "Sour Milk Sea," "Please Mrs. Henry" by Dylan, 3 or 4 other great, you know, "All Things Must Pass," this other one, there's all these songs, and they're all like, yeah, whatever, you know, and they go to some other song, and George is just like whipping stuff out, and then Paul starts whipping stuff out, you know, "Long Winding Road" one day, and this the next, "Oh Darling," and then this one, and "Bathroom Window." It's all Abbey Road stuff so far, is the stuff they're working on the Let It Be rehearsals, and it's just amazing. It's just like, these guys, Jesus, what'd they do when they heard like 20 killer songs in 2 days? You know, oh, here's another one I made up last night. You know, it's just like, holy cow. But yeah, there's a lot of compiling that needs to be done with that stuff. You know, so. And a John one would be cool. You know, there's some good Across the Universes in here, and I've already come across, you know, stuff like that. The band doing it, you know.
Well, you know, John was never satisfied.
Did you find the take of "Give Me Some Truth"?
Pardon?
There's the "Give Me Some Truth" where it's John and Paul singing together on it.
He went into that on about CD 15 or 16, and they kind of knew it. They'd already done it before off camera somewhere, you know. So
Exactly.
they were already familiar with that one. Yeah, you know. It was just like, holy cow, how many of these solo tunes did he already have sitting in his back pocket, you know, when the band broke up? You know.
Yeah, tons.
Well, Mind Games, Make Love Not War. You know, that was in there.
Another Day, Backseat of My Car.
Yeah.
Let It Down.
Jealous Guy, you know.
Isn't it a pity?
Well, all right, fellas. Anybody else have anything they want to add? I was going to say an honorable mention to me is definitely Pussycats by Harry Nilsson.
It's a missing link between rock and roll and Walls and Bridges.
Yes. Yep. Very much so. Very much so. But Harry Nilsson album to check out. That's for another show. But
I have a quad of that.
What?
I have a quad of that.
Oh, do you? I do too. Yes, I have a quad 8 track of that. Beat that.
Oh wow.
Now you got to buy a car to go with it. Really.
That's right. Well, you know, I appreciate all you guys giving your time tonight and helping out Craig and I and on the Garage Door Beatles Power Hour. Appreciate your
Yeah,
input.
we appreciate it a lot.
It's a blast. Thanks for asking.
In
Thanks for having
closing,
us, Troy.
yes, in closing, let's go through it real fast. Robert, anything to add in closing?
Well, when you talked about the live jam record on New York City, I was thinking that is my favorite reading of Cold Turkey, is the one he does there at the Lyceum in '69.
Very
The
hot.
Plastic Ono Supergroup.
Yeah. That's a swing.
What'd you say, Bunny?
It's Keith Moon Keith Moon's one of the 2 drummers on there. The thing just swings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Horns.
I would love to do a show sometime, you guys, with talking about drumming and the different drummers that played with them solo Fab years. I don't know, Bunny, if you've checked out Robert's latest shows on it's Ringo, Examine the Forensic on Ringo, but it's just 2 great shows with a guy who's playing with Jody Stevens from Big Star. Just a great great introspective bit, Robert. You raised some good points there. A lot of good points in those two shows. So thank you. Great job. That was very good as a drummer.
Someone sent me a girl explaining Ringo songs, some kid, and Diodario and some of the companies sponsored it and all that, and she's got the stuff all wrong. It's hilarious. She doesn't know what she's doing. It's just like, oh, brother.
I know. I just cringe sometimes. At least she's trying, you know. Yeah.
She's trying. Yeah.
Gotta start somewhere.
Anything else, Robert, on closing?
Well, tomorrow Ringo's going to be leading the singing of Yellow Submarine, so stay tuned.
Oh boy. Cool.
Craig, anything we've got some new interviews coming up on the garage door.
We do have some interviews next week, so everybody tune back in and we'll get this one up there. And this has probably been the best one so far. We got Bunny Carlos and Robert Rodriguez both to hang out with us. So
and Terry Sowder.
And Terry Sowder. The only non-drummer in the group.
That's right. You're the only non-drummer, Sowder.
I know. Maybe I'll pick them up.
Bunny, anything coming up with you guys and Cheap Trick reissues? I know there was a Record Store Day release that was scheduled, and they bumped Record Store Day release. Anything you know of coming up?
Well, the Record Store release is supposed to be the Whiskey A Go-Go, and there's 4 separate sets, and they compiled it to one thing instead of doing the complete thing. I want to kill them. But otherwise, just hunkering down, hanging in. Yeah.
Yep. What's the date of those whiskey shows?
June 77 between basic tracks and lead vocals for In Color. So it's half bar band arrangements and half In Color arrangement. It's pretty rocking. It's really good.
Wow. That's great.
Okay. Terry, anything coming up with you? What's going on with you?
Not much. On furlough right now, so just listening to music and trying to catch up on house maintenance. And
yeah, aren't we all? Yeah,
that's basically it.
Our current situation was made for going through the Get Back tapes.
Really?
That's right.
Right.
It's helped.
Yeah,
it's helped.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys very much, Bunny. Thank you for your time. Terry, thank you for your time. Robert, as always, thank you for your time.
Anytime, you guys.
Cheers, gentlemen. See you later.
Take it easy.
All right, see you, Bunny.